I've got to turn my hearing aids down. Otherwise, I don't talk loud enough. All right. Well, they haven't closed the door yet, but I think there's just a lot of excitement for some reason. I don't know if this is the first time here since the shrine was completed. Well, there are a few things to move around yet, but this is it. It feels amazing. I feel speechless. Too bad, folks. I'm going to try to tie in what I felt like I should make this talk about with this shrine. I wanted to get over here while the consecration was going on. I don't know about you guys, but my week got crazy. And the universe was not having it. So I watched a little bit online, but walking in here today, it's stunning. And I think this is the first Dharma Talk to happen here since this happened. So no pressure, right? Truly, I want us to think today about impermanence and also about what lasts. So the title of the talk, for intro purposes, title purposes, and all that, had something to do with coming to a state of peaceful awareness, and then what to do with it. This shrine is kind of a representation of that all. The impermanence, of course, happened. We had an extraordinary center sitting right where we're sitting now, that was an old church built in, I believe, 1923, and it burned down. That's impermanence. Along with it were many sacred objects, texts, recordings of great masters that literally became a smoke offering to the universe, and a blessing for the whole city. That's the way I saw it. You know, it was kind of like the most extraordinary incense offering in the history of the planet when that building burned down. And we didn't really know what to do, but Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, when we called him during the fire, said to Kim Miracle, the director at the time, "Don't be sad, rebuild." Amazing. And the reason that he said that, he asked a few questions first, like, what's it like? What do you see? And the most extraordinary thing that we saw was we had a Karmapa dream flag. You've seen these with the blue top and the yellow bottom and the swirlies in the middle, that signifies the union of kindness and compassion, among other things. Kindness being wisdom and compassion being what we call skillful means, because kindness is love. Wisdom is love. That's it. And skillful means, well, in order to remove somebody's suffering, which is compassion, it requires a lot of skill. So there's some training to do. Just having the idea doesn't seem to be sufficient, at least for me, it's not. And there's this flag flying above this roof that was literally engulfed in flames, and the flag kept flying. Then at a certain point, the wind died down, and the flag wrapped itself around the pole, and it was like that for a while. Then the wind started to blow again, and it unfurled, and the firemen who were here couldn't understand. It's like how that was possible, that this nylon flag didn't melt or burn or something. It was kind of a little miracle in a way. And Kim said, everything's on fire, but the flagpole isn't falling. And the flag is still waving in the wind. And that's when he said, don't be sad, rebuild. That was it. That was the story. It's actually, you can see pictures of this happening on all 3 news channels because they were all here covering the fire. Once they got the main fires out, one of the firemen got up on the hook and ladder and extended the ladder all the way out and walked out on that ladder. I couldn't believe it. It was like a circus stunt to watch him walk that ladder all the way up into the sky to a flagpole attached to something, one last timber, literally, with the whole rest of the roof gone. And he snagged the flag and gave it to us, and I believe it's downstairs. We keep it. It's kind of like a relic of this place. One of the things that Khenpo Rinpoche wanted the most was for us to rebuild. I was on the board at the time, and oh my gosh, all the different things we had to try to plan for. We had to find a place to practice, and we started at the McConnell Center up in Worthington, and then went to other places, landed in Tifereth, Israel in the basement for a while, which is significant because, I don't know how many of you know this, but Passover started last night, and we'll continue on. And Tifereth Israel, of course, is all involved with Passover right now. And that's about passing from a narrow place to going to an open place. Passing from enslavement and going toward freedom and learning how to handle that. Well, Tifereth has a nice building, and we were the wanderers in the desert at the time, and they so beautifully just offered us a place to be for a few years, you know? So we had our journey, and then finally, we didn't buy an old building to repurpose it, which was one of the ideas and would have been cheaper and all that kind of stuff. There was an old firehouse down on Parsons Avenue the city had for sale. I personally wanted that because they had a pole where the firemen would slide down the pole to get to the trucks, and I envisioned the shrine room where the trucks were and the Rinpoches coming down the pole. I'm glad you're laughing. I mean, some people didn't think that was funny. But we didn't do that. And there were a few other places we looked at. Finally, it just became apparent that we should rebuild here. And we had lamas from all over North America come for about a week to sit out here. We made a tent, and they consecrated the ground. It was an extraordinary thing. A lot of energy. I mean, for those of you who like a lot of energy in the air, boy, that was supercharged. And we rebuilt this. And 3 years ago, we moved in here. And it's been great. It feels really good. But I want to tell you, it feels different to me this morning. And it's not just because the visuals of this. Once again, lamas came back to consecrate all these statues last week, and some of you were able to be here. And I want to talk a little bit about that before we get into the rest. I mean, what's this all about? Well, this is all about you. It's all about each of us. If there was ever, it's important probably to say this on Passover, if there was ever something that wasn't a golden calf or an idol, this is it. What happens with these things, these sacred objects in this particular culture, is they've got artisans that obviously are very skilled at doing this kind of thing. And they have actual proportions that they don't make them up. They're like classical proportions that come out of ancient texts that say how things should be set up. And the whole reason for that is that people who profoundly surrendered themselves to meditation began to realize that there were certain proportions and lines that are harmonious to the mind, to the human mind. And just by seeing things that are drawn or painted or sculpted in those proportions, just seeing that brings a certain peacefulness. And they wanted, of course, they wanted to use all their efforts to benefit beings, so that's a way to benefit them. So every time that somebody would see something with these proportions, they would feel something inside themselves. That's the first thing, that there's this physical harmony in the universe that when we see it, we can calm down a little bit. And so the first thing is about calming down. The second thing is that they come in to consecrate these things for a couple reasons. I can't say them all right here, but just a few things to say. They want to bring them to life in such a way that it's a little bit like, this is where the faith comes in Buddhism. There's not a lot of belief in Buddhism, but some of it. There's a profound belief that we all have the same nature as Buddha, the awakened one. You have it, and you have it, you have it, you have it. Even I have it. However, it's covered over with different kinds of insulation that we put there. And so this kind of thing that can harmonize with enlightened energy, it's a little walled off from the things that might cause it to hum beautifully and in harmony. Well, the reason that they consecrate these is because they want to turn these into a living presence that's always resonating at that enlightened vibration. So that when you come into a room where things like this have been skillfully consecrated, when you do that, if you sit down and you're quiet, you can move, it's meditation the way we teach it, shamatha. Something comes up, whatever it is, thought, feeling, sensation, you just note it and let it go. Well, by letting it go without labeling and without judging and all that kind of stuff, it floats by like a cloud, and there's some open sky there. And in that open sky, there's light. There's energy. There's a vibratory energy that, for humans, we read as light. That's what our eyes see. So they put enlightened energy literally in all of this. And each different representation is a representation of different qualities and activities that are all enlightened qualities and enlightened activities. And we have them all already. We already have them in us. We're not going to get them somewhere. We're not going to get it from these guys. Believe me, they want you to recognize this more than anything. That's what they're here for. It's sort of up to us. So we come to a place like this, or we go on pilgrimage to a place that has that kind of presence, and we quiet down. We just let go of the stuff that usually is insulating our own Buddha nature. We open up, and just in that moment of quiet, you know how like two tuning forks tuned to the same frequency are, you ring one and you hold it out there and the other one starts going all by itself, like without touching it or ringing it. Have you done that experiment in like 8th grade or whatever? It's great. I love that one. Well, there's a tuning fork there and it's been rung. That's what the consecration is. And when you come in here and sit down and you quiet down, that can open up that resonance within yourself, and you can get to know your own Buddha nature. So I want to submit to you, before anything else, that it's good to just come and be here and pick up some of that resonance. And we'll get into more of, contrasting information later. But the way I'd like to start is for us to start with the refuge prayer as usual. I always talk before I do this. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but so it is. I'd like to say it twice in English and chant it the third time in Tibetan. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the assembly most excellent, I take refuge until I reach enlightenment. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all beings. Sunje chudang soki chognam la, changchu pardu takni kyab suchi, dagi junso ipe sunam ki, rola penshir sanje Drupar Sho. So what I wanted to start with, aside from me blabbing on a little bit, is just to take a few minutes to do what I was talking about. I know this isn't great for folks online, I apologize, but I want to take a few minutes and just meditate together in this space. Bring whatever you have, whoever you are. The force of us practicing together helps all of us. And so whatever's coming up is fine. Just let it go, and in the space between thoughts, become aware of the resonance in you and how it's supported and amplified by the energy in this room. Now I want you to just use your imagination. That this resonance, this enlightened resonance in your own mind, your own heart, in all the ways that you move through life, is ringing out. Without judgment or analysis, and just touching others and causing them to begin to resonate as well. With goodness. And let it go even further. And imagine how they're resonating touches others, and so on and so on. This is the power of realizing interdependence. And why at the beginning of every meditation, we cultivate the motivation to benefit all beings through our practice. And at the end, we dedicate it likewise for the benefit of all beings. We're intimately connected to each other, to all those skillful beings that brought together these conditions so that we can join them in this resonance. So take a minute and dedicate the merit of having practiced this way for the benefit of all beings. All right, so that's the basis for wisdom and for compassion, the union of which is enlightenment. And part of the problem we have of not actually realizing it, or maybe just catching glimpses and then losing them, which is what happens, because guess what? Impermanence. Even that bliss that you just love, once you get it, it won't stay. I promise. It's impermanent. However, it'll make an impression, and your energy will begin to flow differently, And you'll more and more just naturally create the conditions for yourself and others to begin to engender the qualities of an awakened being, because that's what awakening is. Once we know that we're part of each other, we can actually follow the instructions of the Buddha, which, as you've all heard a gajillion times, do no harm to yourself or others. Well, if you know you're connected, how could you? Why would you? I mean, you would be shooting yourself in the foot just to prove you had a gun. I mean, what's the point of that? There's no point to that. So the more we can marinate in this mind state, the more we can follow that first instruction, do no harm. The second, of course, is practice virtue all the time. Virtue is simply living in a state of kindness and compassion. That's it. Benefiting beings. When you see a place you can help, help. You know? Don't let anything get in the way of that. That's practicing virtue all the time. And if you get really skillful and you can remove suffering, do that. That's compassion. It's wonderful. The third thing in that statement is totally tame your mind. Well, I got news. If you don't totally tame your mind, you won't be able to do the first two. That's the thing. And that's why we meditate the way we meditate. It's because we're still trapped a little bit. We're still trapped a little bit, and we need to go through the exercises of letting go, simply letting go, and then simply looking at the nature of awareness. But how are we trapped? Well, here it is. You know, there's a famous saying in the 12-step program that you really can't make improvements until you hit rock bottom. Well, that's true on one hand. There's another truth also. Some of us, we won't hit rock bottom, and it's a shame. Does that mean we get stuck in illusion our whole life without really stubbing our toe? That doesn't sound like a good bargain to me. The other thing is that you get everything you want. You got all the money in the world, all the money you want anyway. You got all the stuff you want, lots of stuff. In fact, you got some stuff last week that's boring now, so you're going to get new stuff. You can get new stuff. You think about stuff, then there are all the tastes and smells and all that you want to have, all the physical sensations you want to have. And if you ever were in a position where you just had it all, to put it in a TV show kind of thing, you got it all. What you realize is that you're still not happy. I mean, truly, there's still this thing that's missing. And in a sense, I've heard Will Smith, of all people, talk about this. It's a very good little talk. He says it's like having your toes curled over the edge of a very high cliff. And you're so disappointed that you've gotten everything you wanted and you still don't have the happiness you were really seeking, and you push off into the void. Interesting. I don't think he's talking about committing suicide. I think he's talking about understanding the futility of things like that. Because what's really true, when you really want something, you really don't want that thing. You want what you think that thing will make you feel like. That's what you want. oh, well, that up-levels the game. And that's one of the reasons that we do meditations that are very specific and very directed in this particular tradition on various Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that have important qualities, because those qualities help us create the conditions we need in order to grow a sense of lasting awareness. So here's how it goes. I remember, back when I was on the way to the cliff top, back in the 90s, and I remember one time, I decided, I was a little frugal, but not real frugal. So I decided I was going to buy a Lexus LS 400, big car, quiet, very luxurious. I bought a used one, but I bought one. And boy, oh boy, there were some people who were really disappointed in me for buying that. Because I had certain kind of, what shall I say, I had ideals that weren't particularly materialistic, let's put it that way. And yet there it was, and I drove it home, and my neighbors and my wife and my children were like, what? What? Yeah. And why'd I get that? Well, I got it because I thought it would make me feel good to drive around in it. And it turned out that, yeah, it felt pretty good for a while, and I thought it was a great car, by the way. It was very well made and really fun to drive. But it just became another thing within about 2 weeks. And then there needed to be something else, and something else, and something else. And then that car burned. It literally caught on fire. We have a friend who used to say, somebody put a Hexus on your Lexus. And honest to God, it was early spring. Back then I used to play golf. And I would sneak out on my own. And I went out to the golf course, and I was just going to play like 9 holes of golf, and I played 7 or 8 holes, and my back went out. And I mean, it was bad. I couldn't stand up. And I had golf clubs, which, so I was crawling up the last hole there, dragging my golf clubs, and I get to my car, and I see that it's full of smoke. It's a little like, Anyway, it was full of smoke. It had caught fire. I couldn't even stand up. And nobody to this day knows how that caught on fire. They had fire experts from Indianapolis come to look at it, people who look at fires in cars at the speedway. And nobody could figure it out. So I'm figuring my karma just like, anyway, it was impermanent. But what was there when I wanted it? Awareness. And what was there when my back went out? Well, awareness. I was quite aware. And what was there when it burned and went away? Same, awareness. So that's true for all of us. No matter whether we judge what we're going through, what we have or what we don't have, as being good or bad, desirable or undesirable, no matter what, that's just the story we're telling ourselves. And what's left, always there, is this awareness. Always. Even if we're having dreams at night and they're phantasmagorical, what's there? The story we tell ourselves is the dream that's there. No, it's not the dream that's there. It's an illusion. Awareness is there. So what this particular main Buddha is about, It's Vajradhara. So the way that enlightened mind, the way that Buddha appeared to the founder of this lineage, Talopa, looked like that. But that's a representation of pure awareness. And the moment of Talopa's enlightenment was he became aware of awareness. That's why we meditate the way we meditate. That's why we do the practices we're doing, is stage by stage. Talopa and others since have helped us with a kind of set of exercises our minds can do so that we can remove this insulation that's been covering over this part of ourselves that could be resonant with enlightened mind. That's why we practice. That's why we have pilgrimage to places like this. That's why lamas who have a taste of that realization come and consecrate places like this because they want us to wake up. Everything's about that, literally everything. I had this guided contemplation I wanted to try on you. It's not Tibetan, it's Greek. Aristotle, no less. But I found it was really helpful. So I want to dip back in to this awareness thing in this way. And the reason I want to do it is simply that I think it's me talking it's fine. It's an experience. But a direct experience for you in your own mind would be much better. And I don't know that my words will produce that. However, Aristotle, pretty smart guy, he did it this way. So just take a minute and calm back down. It's very brief. And just imagine yourself in the realm of time. You start by asking yourself a question. How thick is the present moment? Well, let's see. Then he says, well, the present is a boundary between the past and the future. Well, the past no longer exists. It's gone. In the future, something will happen for sure, but it hasn't happened yet. So whatever we imagine it to be doesn't exist. It's just an illusion. So what's this present moment that's the boundary between two things that don't exist? So you can see, even this present moment doesn't exist the way we think it does. Even though by the time we recognize it, it's already passed. if we sink into the feeling of it. And drop the concepts of time and space, you can feel an opening. Can you feel that opening? Where something that literally is just a boundary, it doesn't exist, opens up into limitless space. And our own awareness of everything that appears and exists is the luminosity, the light in that space. Generally, when we're working with that, and we realize that things are happening. Things are happening. And we want to work with our own minds to fill that space with so much goodness that we become resonant for the goodness in others. Then we begin to practice things like this refuge prayer. So it says, I take refuge until enlightenment, okay? Enlightenment is when we really get this present moment that's limitlessly open and luminous. And it says, how are we going to do that? By the merit of generosity and other good deeds. Well, so here's the thing. This is a process. So first, we got Vajradhara here who is inviting us to recognize our own Buddha nature. That's Buddha. That's our physical presence as awakened mind, as Buddha. Then we realize that things are happening, and everything that happens arises with causes and conditions, right? That's the rule of physics. It's not just what Buddha taught about karma, that's what Newton taught, and frankly, that's also the one thing that seems to be true in quantum mechanics, which is new physics. Anyway, everything arises with causes and conditions. So that's up to us. And we got a list of things to work on here. In the refuge prayer, it says generosity and the rest. Well, it's worth contemplating generosity. There are 4 kinds of generosity. That's another talk. But that's the point. You can deeply understand these things. And then there's ethics. You know, that ethics piece. Ethics arises fairly naturally when you recognize interdependence first, as we kind of were getting a feel for before, because you wouldn't want to do something that's harmful to somebody else. You wouldn't want to do anything they wouldn't like at all. And you want to love them as you would like to be loved yourself. I think that has transcended just Buddhism, but that's ethics. So, you know, it's even beyond something like, I'll take one, thou shalt not steal. That's ethics. In Buddhism, stealing is considered taking what's not been given. It's not even just taking what somebody else has or what nobody has. It's like receiving what you get as an offering. That's ethics. And taking other stuff, not so good. Anyway, there's a lot to think about and cultivate with ethics. Then there's patience. Because frankly, until we're enlightened, stuff's going to aggravate us. And stuff's going to attract us. And we're going to try to either squash the stuff that aggravates us or get away from it, and we're going to try to get the stuff that we think we want. And usually, in order to sit in this state of equanimity that we get a taste of in meditation, you got to let go of those things, and it takes patience. Because, man, when you want something, you really want it. And you want to get away from something, you really want to get away from it. And to sit there and be patient is hard. The building of this building took a lot of patience in that very way. I mean, real boots on the ground patience. It's a testament to Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche and people all over the world who made this happen for us. We're connected to them all and need to be grateful and patient with them all, as they were grateful that we were going to try to do this and patient with us and trying to get it done. Then there's joy. Well, joy is joy. But mostly joy arises not from our own pleasure, which we fooled ourselves into thinking. Actually, when you can rejoice in the good fortune of others, that's an unassailable joy. That's the joy they're talking about. Why? Well, interdependence. We're connected to them. I'm so happy that good things happen to others. Now, sure, if that's something that was on my list of things I wanted for me, well, I could be jealous. Jealous is like the enemy of joy. All right? So when you see jealousy arise, no problem. You don't have to say, oh, I'm bad. I'm going to go do, something to purify that. No, just see it. Oh, jealousy is there. And let it go. This is why it's important to practice shamatha every day. You got to get those muscles in shape for letting go, and you got to be able to use them well. It's simply like these muscles. If I didn't go to the gym, I'd probably be in a wheelchair. I mean, seriously, it's true. We need to work those things out so that when we see things that are the opponents of these good qualities arise, and they will. See, there's it, perfect. They will arise. And when we see them, we don't have to judge them. We don't have to ring that rather, what shall I say, not so sweet sounding tuning fork. We can just say, jealousy. And it'll be okay. We don't have to believe our story about that. So joy is rejoicing in the good fortune of others. And then, of course, meditative awareness or mindful awareness. Well, you got to pay attention to see any of this stuff. If you're not paying attention, all of this is just really interesting. It's like reading Lord of the Rings, fine book, no problem, I enjoy it, but it's not going to be helpful to be lost in your story. It will be very helpful if you can, be aware of where you are and how you can participate in goodness. And then, of course, last, wisdom is the sixth. Point being, all these represent all those good qualities. And different practices for different ones of these actually help you do kind of what I went through way too briefly right there, which is to cultivate these qualities which create the conditions for enlightened mind to arise and for the activities, enlightened activities, to manifest. People on the internet all over the place are always wondering, how do I manifest this? How do I manifest that? I'm like, create the conditions for that. That's up to you. It's not magic. I mean, I was once a victim of my own magical thinking, or twice, or 3 times, or 1,000 times. I have magical malas, that I was gonna achieve great things in Dharma practice with, prayer beads made out of like all kinds of like special substances. I tell you what, they're wonderful, they're pretty. I used to make some even. It's wonderful, nice. The thing that really works is to find a practice that you're really connected to. And you can only do that by exploring for yourself. And do it a lot. I have one practice I've been doing now for more than 20 years, every day. Same one. And I will tell you that after a while, it gets to be home base. And I can bring my life to it, and I can take my life from it. I also kind of get to places where I feel like I know it inside out, and then it evolves and transforms. And so do I. I get a deeper understanding. So my best recommendation is to scout around, see what you really like, what practice really appeals to you. They're all good, and we're all a little different. So we have to do this work on our own. Certainly you can talk to Lama Kathy or any meditation instructor if you want to just check things out. I encourage that. But yeah, pick a practice and make a commitment to do it every day. Sometimes it requires, it required a little more than just that for me. I was in the desire phase of things. I was still climbing to the cliff top in all my spiritual materialism, and I went to Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, and I said, I want to do this practice. And he said, and I drove all the way to New York just to get the empowerment for that practice. That was it. I wasn't going for a program. It was like, I was climbing that cliff. And he was very kind. He didn't say, that's spiritual materialism. You're climbing a cliff. You're going to end up diving out into the void. He didn't say that. What he said was, I'll give you this practice. I'll teach you how to do this practice, but you have to promise me that you'll do it every day for the rest of your life. And I said, I wanted it so bad, I said, okay. And then, years later, I felt like I was stuck, but I still stayed with the commitment. And now I can tell you that these bodhisattvas are my friends. We talk. It's like folded into it as a part of my life. And I want to submit to you, you all want that. You want to know who your allies are. You want to know that you've got the support you need. And that's what Sangha's about, the third of the 3 jewels. So we talked about Buddha. We talked about Dharma a little bit. And Sangha is all of us. Plus, when you get intimate with the practice and you make that connection, you'll have a direct connection or resonance with these bodhisattvas and Buddhas. So I want to encourage you to do that. And I didn't say anything about what I was going to say. I think I was just riffing on being here in the presence of this new shrine. But I would like to end it with something. This is part of a dedication of merit from another practice that I like a lot that His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche shared with me and others, of course. And it goes like this. May I obtain the empowerment free from fixation, which naturally liberates dualistic propensities. That's kind of what my whole talk was about, as it turns out. May I obtain the empowerment of immortal life, which is the unchanging expanse of awareness. May I obtain the empowerment of awakening within one lifetime, which is the endless accumulation of merit. It's a beautiful thing. If we really train ourselves to bring forth goodness and dedicate it for the benefit of all beings, that's it. The empowerment of the awakening within one lifetime is the endless accumulation of merit. Do no harm. Practice virtue. Totally tame your mind. That's it. And as the fourth phrase said, this is the teaching of the Buddha. So, I talked for the whole time, sort of. But I'm happy to stay for questions if anybody has them, or comments, anything like that. So the microphones are there. Please use those, because people online will be able to hear that way.
Thank you very, very much, Eric.
Hi, David.
I do this out of my ignorance, not out of trying to stump you. You mentioned the word idol.
Yes.
Which kind of I've struggled with, having the statues. So, as you were talking, I looked up the definition of idol, and I tried to, relate it into Buddhism, and it's difficult for me because I'm American. Okay, so one part of it is a false god.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the Buddhist way would be the true path. Second would be the object of worship, because the false god is, the idol is static, a thing, not the god. Mm-hmm. Three is the idol is adored blindly and excessively, and we try to be aware in balance. Teach me.
Yeah, well, this is supposed to represent what's already in you. And yet we don't see ourselves that way. So it would be hard for it to be an idol, right? I mean, if we were self-aggrandizing and all that, maybe there's a chance that you could take that and turn it into an idol. Sure, human mind can do that. But this is meant to be something that's a living presence that reveals to you who you are. Idolatry is believing that the power is out there, and you could make anything an idol. I mean, early on, they made, there are all kinds of, look, human beings have been around for, depending on who you listen to, 100 or 200 million years. 6,000 years ago, 5,000 or 6,000 out of 100 million years. I mean, it's nothing. Nothing. Humans started trying to ascribe meaning to things they didn't understand, and created religions. There's nothing wrong with that. However, people who continued looking for meaning in pretty much all religions found this truth of true awareness, of being limitless, but nothing else, right? Meanwhile, along the way, not everybody was necessarily on the path of meaning. They were just trying to get things that they wanted and avoid things they didn't want. So maybe you pray to a special tree in order to get special boons from the special tree, whatever, like that. So on the one hand, that path led some people to taking a tree or something as an idol. On the other hand, somebody went that far and just kept going. And that's one of the reasons that aspiration and motivation are incredibly important. Our minds are extremely powerful. We have the nature of enlightened mind in us, extremely powerful. If we aim them in a selfish direction, we're going to get selfishness in a powerful way. If we aim them in the direction of the qualities of goodness, we'll get goodness in a powerful way. And that's true for, I've seen rabbis and priests and monks who kind of have gone off the rails. We all have. It's in the news, right? So it's important for people at every level to focus on aspirations and motivations for noble conduct when they're messing with religion. Because if you don't, no matter who you are, you can wind up turning some living presence into an idol. You can. We have the power to do that. It's remarkable. We also have the power to just keep going. One of the things in the Passover Seder, last night we were at a Passover Seder at my son's house. One of the things that struck me last night was you come to this one place where you've got a glass of wine and you say the names of the 10 plagues that were visited upon the Egyptians, and you take a drop of wine out of your glass for each one in recognition that the suffering even of your enemy diminishes you. So it's recognition of that interdependence in a way. But also, as the story goes, you just got to keep going, even though this is a horrible situation for everybody. Then later on, there's this recounting in this song called Dayenu, which means it would have been enough. And you recount all the blessings. And at the end of every one, you say, Dayenu, it would have been enough, but you did more. Well, the point of that, though, was, to me, was you didn't stop with just having gotten something good. You just kept going. So I think the point for us is that we just keep going and realize always that it's about living presence, awareness in the present moment. That's it. Otherwise, we can turn anything into an idol. I don't know if that's just me riffing. There's always the thing that on the verge of getting what you really need, you can stop and create an idol and stop yourself short. That's actually part of the Passover story too. Of course, they melted down all their gold when Moses was up on the mountain and turned it into a golden calf, which is the story, right? Moses got pissed off, broke the tablets, had to go back up, the whole thing. And when he comes back down, there are instructions that say, you got to build an Ark of the Covenant, and there's prescription for it. Most people don't read this part of the story, but the prescription is, take all of your gold. Well, all of their gold was in an idol. Take all of your gold, melt it down, and make gold plates. And then find acacia wood, and you make an Ark of a Covenant with a wall of acacia, a wall of gold in, 3-part wall, and a wall of acacia wood. The wood, acacia wood in Hebrew comes from the root word shtus, which means folly. So what the prescription is you take your folly and you melt down your idol and you put it together with your other folly and you make openness. And then the way the Bibles that we all grew up with said, and I will dwell in it. Well, it doesn't, the Hebrew doesn't say I will dwell in it. That would make the Ark of the Covenant an idol. People make this mistake. It says I will dwell in them. So when you take all the real stuff of your life, all the stuff that you idolize, and all your folly, all the crazy ideas, and you put it together and create an open space with that, then it says, and I will dwell in them, which is what we've been talking about this whole time. You have that nature within you. It just needs to be awakened. So anyway, idols. You ask me something I can just drift around on. I apologize for my drifting.
Well, thank you, Eric. Everything is perfectly clear now.
Lucky you. All right. Well, it's gotten pretty late, so let's do dedication of merit. They're waving at me through the door. So we'll just read this in English. By this merit may all attain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy of wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the oceans of samsara, I will free all beings. The courageous Manjushri, who knows everything as it is. Samantabhadra, who knows in the same way. And all the bodhisattvas, that I may follow in their path, I completely dedicate all this virtue. Thanks, everybody. Wonderful to see you.